is Jelena. I come from Croatia. It's the newest and the youngest EU member state, and joined in 2013. To tell you a little bit about myself. Okay. Which one?
Yeah.
This one? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So, I'm an engineer. I'm a bachelor in engineering, and I'm a master in business studies. And I've been working at the United Nations system for 8 years in energy field, managing projects in energy efficiency and renewable on behalf of the governments in the European Union. Primarily, I was based in Croatia, with often going to our headquarters in United States, where I also lived in San Francisco for 3 years. Later on, I was involved in international projects which helped governments across the globe to implement technical specification in procurement tenders so that the CO2 emissions are decreased from the very beginning. This also included labeling of different products in manufacturing so that these rules are implemented from the early stage. Later on, I opened my own company in London because I wanted to continue working internationally, and this company, which is based in London, continue working with small and medium enterprises, and my main focus was in developing project proposals which are about to be financed through European Commission grants. So it's a kind of a similar thing what you guys doing here on this side of the world when it comes to venture capital. We are doing it through grants which we are submitting it to European Commission funds, and I was mainly focused on the fund which is intended for small and medium enterprises which are developing projects in innovations. So I have a really wide range of fields that I've been working at. This is energy and related fields such as energy efficiency and renewable energy. Later on, I was focused on tourism development throughout the whole Balkan region, agriculture, food production, and also maritime and navigation system. These are all fields which are main focus innovations in those fields. When it comes on trading with the European Commission, there are certain rules, of course, that European Union is doing, and this is mainly because of the protection of their own market, of course. Every country, every continent has its own rules, but when it comes to European Union, this is the world's largest single market in the whole world. Why I'm saying this and why this is so relevant is because when it comes to trading with Asian countries, then one rule comes to Singapore, the other rule comes into China, and so on. When trading is done with European Union, no matter of which country in the EU you are trading with, the rules are always the same. So the goods or services come into Croatia, for instance, you can easily distribute them all around other 27 countries. This is very important because when it comes to standardized rules, then it concerns very much about how to invoice your third clients, and that is mainly focused on VAT system and customs, of course. So the rules when it comes to European Union and protecting it, this is just a small statistics to see, is there? Yeah, so to see how big the imports and export is, you can see that it's pretty much balanced. So we in EU import as much as we export to any other countries. It's a kind of a balance, right? And it was pretty much stable, but when it comes to from 1999 to 2010, it increased the economy and growth in general for 30%. So it was really a fast-growing market. External trade, EU is also the world's largest exporter. In next presentations that I would like to have with people who are interested in my work, I will show you examples on which trade is the most needed and which goods we are focused on. there are certain policies, of course, that cover the trade of goods and services, either on importing or exporting. What I can say very shortly is that the EU is protecting its market in the way that it has to, whatever they are importing in terms of production, they are firstly trying to find it within the EU market. So they are pushing incentives to manufacturers to produce the goods within the EU. And if we cannot find it then in the EU, then we are focused on the other markets. Nevertheless, as you can see from the previous slide, import and export is pretty much the same. How to trade with worldwide countries is to make it easier. We always need to have some kind of agreements, and the most recent agreement when it comes to Asian countries is the EU-Singapore agreement, which allows now easier ways of trading with goods and services. We also have other with all the countries in the world. These are just a few which I found the most important, that we are trading with the most. This one came out in late 2018, so it's very much new, which I think it's very important for you guys here to understand the rules which come within the agreement, because some rules are changed. Of course, now it makes it easier, but still there are a lot of things that people think when it comes to trading with EU that it's just import and export. No, you have to really be careful, and you really need to satisfy a lot of things so that your shipment can come into EU in general. These agreements, of course, especially when it comes to EU-Singapore, are to remove custom duties and to get rid of overlapping bureaucracy, of course. Whatever we are doing over there on that side of the world, it's very complicated, bureaucracy is very big, but when it comes to trading, then we make rules really easy to handle, because it's in very much of the interest of the EU to trade with this side of the world. We all know that technology brains are focused here, so it's of any country within the EU to have more trades with Singapore than with any other countries in the world. Singapore is a 10th member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the EU largest commercial partner in Asia. So this is very important, because if it's one of the most largest or one of the largest, then with this agreement which came into force recently, the whole trading is going to be much easier, which is of course good for both parties, either EU or Singapore in general. The most important thing when it comes to trading with EU is VAT and customs. This is kind of complicated when it comes to trading from Singapore, but this is why many of the countries from this side of the world are establishing, incorporating countries within EU member states, because when you have a local company, then you're trading within EU 28 is very simple, no VAT, no customs then. When you are importing from out EU countries, then customs vary, and they change a lot sometimes on a monthly basis. There is a lot of security issues with importing things from Asian countries when it comes to security. EU has stronger rules, I would say, when it comes to these, especially health issues. A lot of goods that are imported in the EU were stopped at the customs because they didn't comply with certain certification when it comes to health issues, for instance. So for these things, people who would like to trade with EU should be very careful, but not to be afraid, of course, just to satisfy all the rules and all the needs up front, so they don't have any troubles at the customs. By troubles, I mean financial troubles, because when your goods are stuck at the customs, that costs you a lot. You guys know this much better than I do, because Singapore is a port where everything can get stuck here. And then, when it comes to reporting of goods and movements of goods, then there are, of course, again, certain rules: who has to report, what have to report, why they have to report, and how often they have to report. This is also, everything is online within the EU regulation. You can also find it, but you will be lost in the woods of information. So the best thing is to find an advice from professionals who have been trading in these countries. Also, one of the restrictions when it comes to import of the goods in the EU, the language barriers. When you are importing into EU, you have to define which is the first country that you are importing to. So when it comes, if that's England, then everything has to be in English. But then English companies who are distributing goods across EU, they have to take care of other languages. When it comes from UK to Croatia, it has to be with the English version and then Croatian version of it. If it goes throughout all 28, then all 28 languages has to be included in it. So there are certain labeling that we need to follow as well. Also, the risk to the public interest, which I mentioned before, this is also includes environmental protection, which EU has a strong policies now. This is my specialty because I've been working on many of these policies myself in person, cooperating with governments to produce the best outcomes when it comes to EU policies. Some rules and regulations are always marked with these numbers. So this means European Commission number of the policy, which is from the year of, this is for 2008. But you can find that this is all directives in the European Union that you can find in many languages to see what's possible, what's not possible, what's restricted, what is allowed, what is forbidden. And as I said, in all 26 languages you can find it. And I hope I haven't been too long. My name is again Jelena. You can find my LinkedIn profile, and I'm really open to any kind of a discussion, either now or maybe later on or in the future days. Thank you so much.